My parents thought they could erase my engagement and upgrade my sister's life. Then Ethan's face stopped the CEO of Pinnacle Tech mid-sentence, and everything changed. What do you mean by canceling the booking? I tightened my hold on my phone and moved away from my work desk to a peaceful nook of the corridor. This Saturday is the engagement party. Weeks ago, we sent out invitations. My mother's voice carried the practiced composure she employed when breaking bad news. The venue was just too expensive, Claire. I spoke with your father about it, and we simply cannot defend spending that much on a party. We'll look for something more suitable. Suitable. Anger was starting to flush my face. My ideal location was the Riverside Terrace. Since I was 16, I had discussed holding significant events there. Dear, dreams must be in line with reality. Right now, I've been eyeing several quaint restaurant back rooms that might be ideal. We have already made a deposit, I said. By canceling now, how much could you possibly save? A revealing silence. Claire, it's not just about the money. It all comes down to having realistic expectations for the future. Given Ethan's history, it might be wiser to begin with something more modest. My gut churned at the obvious implication. Soon after, knowing that the decision had already been made, I hung up the phone, vowing to discuss it further later. The name Claire Whitmore is mine. Despite having affluent parents and growing up in Cincinnati's upscale Amberley Village area, I've spent my whole life demonstrating that I could succeed on my own. I'm 30 years old. Without my father's connections, I was able to establish a prosperous career in architectural design. I didn't use my trust fund to purchase my own condo. And Ethan Cole, a talented software developer who had nothing growing up yet achieved incredible success, captured my heart. All I wanted was one day, even if my parents couldn't see past his modest attire and quiet manner. My worlds could join together for one ideal party. In a location that felt unique, Ethan and I could announce our engagement to our loved ones. With only a week's warning, my parents had now taken away even that. My sister Brooke texted me as I was making my way back to my desk. I just heard about Riverside from Mom. I apologize, but the bright side is that she is making amends for the family shame by upgrading the location for my birthday. Isn't that fantastic? Before the meaning finally dawned on me, I read the message 3 times while staring at it. The expense was the reason they hadn't canceled. They had canceled due to embarrassment. I am ashamed of Ethan. Of our involvement. Of myself. It wasn't even the worst part, somehow. The weekend following our postponed engagement celebration was my sister's birthday. One thing was clear to me growing up in the Whitfield household: looks were everything. Through relationships made at charity galas and on golf courses, my father became the biggest commercial real estate company in Cincinnati. My mother made sure our family name was mentioned in all the appropriate society sections while serving on the boards of the city's most prominent cultural institutions. Brooke flourished in this setting. She followed the family tradition of dating only men from suitable origins and seeking a law degree not out of desire but because it was required of her, even though she was 2 years younger than me. She developed into the well-mannered, dependable, and ideal daughter my parents had always desired. I went in a different direction. Rather than joining my mother's sorority in college, I volunteered to develop community centers in underprivileged neighborhoods. I turned down my father's offer of a corner office at Whitfield Properties after college in favor of working for a small, cutting-edge architectural firm that specialized in sustainable design. With every decision, the distance between us grew. Even though they didn't quite get it, I felt my parents admired me for paving my own path. Then, while giving a presentation on smart building design at a tech convention, I ran across Ethan. He asked the most perceptive questions of incorporating technology into architectural spaces while remaining modest in his faded jeans and basic button-down shirt. After that, we spent hours chatting at a coffee shop nearby. He was intelligent, kind, and refreshingly sincere, qualities I had not found many of in my parents' social group. I took Ethan home for dinner after we had been dating for 6 months. It was a stressful evening. My parents questioned him about his family. He was middle class, his father taught high school, and his mother was a nurse, and his education, he attended a state school and received a scholarship. When Ethan said he still drove his college car, a 15-year-old Honda that was in excellent condition, my father hardly disguised his disgust. Later that evening, my mother had muttered to me, "Well, at least he's resourceful," as though thrift were some foreign quality she was attempting to be accepting of. I decided they simply needed time. A visit to the man I saw is in order. To value his generosity and sharp intellect instead than obsessing on his wealth or lineage. My parents gave me a tepid congrats when Ethan proposed 6 months later with a straightforward but significant ring that he had chosen himself. They recommended a lengthy engagement right away. My father had said, "Just to be sure. Getting married is a lifelong commitment. Before you take that action, you want to get to know someone well." In reality, he was hoping that I would change my mind and find someone better. Looking back, I should have recognized the warning signals. They had grudgingly agreed to have an engagement party, but it was never going to happen. 3 days after the cancellation, I made an unexpected visit to my parents' residence, which served as the last confirmation. Because I needed time to absorb my anger before confronting them, I had been avoiding their calls. My sister's BMW, my father's business partner's Range Rover, and my aunt's Mercedes were among the other vehicles parked outside as I drew into the curved driveway. They were gathering around floral arrangements and catering samples in the sunroom when I found them. My mom was pointing excitedly at what seemed like a table arrangement. She said, "There is such beautiful natural light on the riverside terrace. And with the head table here, looking out over the river. What is this?" My voice broke through the happy chit-chat. 5 surprised heads turned to face me. My mom was the first to recover. "We were unaware that you would be stopping by, Claire. We're simply finishing up a few things for Brooke's birthday party." At the terrace of Riverside? There was no question. There was an awkward silence. Suddenly, my aunt's phone piqued her curiosity. My father's business partner slipped away after whispering something about a call he had to make. At least Brooke had the grace to display embarrassment. "I informed Mom that it was premature given your circumstances," she remarked quietly, but she maintained that the location was ideal and already available. Despite the rage burning inside of me, I responded, "Available because you canceled my reservation," in an uncannily composed voice. My dad straightened his golf shirt and stood up. "Claire, let's talk about this in private." "Why?" "Everyone in this room is already aware of what occurred. After canceling my engagement party on the grounds that it was too costly, you reserved the same location for Brooke's birthday. I would be interested in hearing the explanation." With her social smile fixed firmly in place, my mother said, "It's not that simple, dear. The Riverside is a fantastic fit for the guest list we have developed for Brooke's celebration. The relationships your father may cultivate there? And my visitors weren't significant enough? Wasn't my celebration worthwhile?" My father interrupted, "That's not what your mother is saying. See, Claire, we've been understanding during this stage of your life, the job at that little company, the small apartment, and now. Ethan." "Ethan?" My tone became stern. "What is the connection between this and my fiancé?" My parents exchanged a look that I had seen far too often before, the one that comes before they reveal some difficult truth that they feel compelled to tell me for my own benefit. At last, my mom stated, "He's just not suitable. Not for a person with your history. He's kind enough, but he has nothing to contribute, no ambition, and no family ties." "With the exception of love, respect, and support," I retorted. "Things that are truly important." My dad let out a deep sigh. "Claire, your fiancé isn't suitable for this family. And you know it in your heart. All we're attempting to do is keep you from making a mistake you'll later regret." The words struck like blows to the body. Although I had assumed their displeasure, I was really taken aback to hear it spoken so directly. I finally saw my parents clearly in that moment, surrounded by party preparations for my sister that were never provided to me. I could see their weak ideals, their conditional affection, and their unwavering belief that they knew best. With my head spinning, I left without saying another thing. They had never really known the man I loved, and they had rejected and judged him. I also questioned whether they knew me at all for the first time. Ethan and I sat in my condo that night, and I was crying as I told him what had transpired. His face was more dejected than irate as he listened quietly. He grasped my hands in his when I was done. He said quietly, "I'm sorry they hurt you." I wiped my eyes and remarked, "I thought they'd at least try to get to know you." I believed that family was more important than money. Ethan smiled at me sadly. Only those who already comprehend something can recognize its value. Your parents have a certain method of measuring worth, and I don't meet their standards. His cool acceptance just strengthened my resolve. "Let's throw our own engagement party," I abruptly proposed. Something straightforward but significant. The riverside terrace is not necessary. We don't require their consent. Ethan paused. "Are you certain?" "Claire, this is your family. I don't wish to be the cause of your breakup with them." "You're not the cause," I told him. "Their actions are. Let's do this our way, please." I turned my hurt into action throughout the course of the following 2 days. In addition to reaching out to friends, I created digital invites and located a gorgeous rooftop location at a nearby brewery. The party was coming together nicely, reflecting who we truly were rather than what my parents believed we ought to be. Then, on Friday morning, Brooke called. She stated without introduction, "Mom has invited the Hendersons to my party." The Hendersons? Like the family of Preston Hale? I felt sick to my stomach. The son of a well-known banking family that my parents had loved, Preston was Brooke's ex-boyfriend. When Brooke ended their relationship last year to date Mason Reed, a pharmaceutical sales representative they viewed as beneath her, they were crushed. The invitation made complete sense now. They were attempting to plan a reunion. Brooke went on to say, she says it's because his father is thinking of investing in Dad's new development. However, we are both aware of her actions. And here's the thing, she didn't actually send Mason Reed an invitation, but she claimed that the party was cancelled because of family issues. I recognized the pattern and closed my eyes. She's treating you the same way they treated me. Not precisely, Brooke retorted. Remember that I am their golden child? They're merely attempting to dictate who I celebrate with, not canceling my party. However, Claire, I sincerely apologize for what they said to you regarding Ethan. It was unkind. And unjust. Brooke had never been this close to publicly scolding our parents. I briefly believed I had found an ally. How about attending your own engagement party with Ethan? I proposed. Bring Mason Reed along as well, and we'll celebrate right in front of them. There was silence in the queue. At last, she responded, "I can't do that." During the party, Dad announced that I had been promoted to junior partner at the firm. "Claire, I've been working for this for 3 years. I can't put it in danger. Even for you." My chest began to feel the same old disappointment. So long as there's something in it for you, you'll allow them to control your life? How about Mason Reed? I'll compensate him. Look, Claire, not everyone can afford to sour relations with the family. There are some of us who have pragmatic concerns. I sat at my desk and gazed at the incomplete invitations on my computer screen after we hung up. Now, even my little gesture of freedom felt insignificant. Even if I were to throw my own celebration, my family, who ought to be the ones who care the most, would still be partying across town without me, acting as though my decisions and feelings were nothing. An hour later, Ethan discovered me in that same state, my engagement ring sparkling in the sunlight as I wrapped it around my finger, wondering if I was engaged in a futile struggle. Ethan was already dressed and enjoying coffee on our tiny balcony when I woke up on Saturday morning, the day of what should have been our engagement celebration. When I joined him, he remarked, "I was thinking maybe we should go to Brooke's party." When I took my first drink of coffee, I almost choked. What? For what reason would we put ourselves through that? Because it feels like they've won when we run away and throw our own party, he observed reflectively. But being present, being authentic, and refusing to let them control how we behave? With the same steady bearing he always had, he gazed at me steadily. That could be the true triumph. That's defending our position. I warned that they would treat you horribly. They'll treat you like you're invisible and make crude remarks. Ethan gave a shrug. They already believe that I am unworthy. What could possibly go wrong? I had worked myself into such a condition of tension that my hands were shaking by the time we got to the riverside terrace that evening. With floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Ohio River, lovely table sets illuminated by crystal chandeliers, and flower arrangements that likely cost more than my rent each month, the venue was breathtaking. My mom was the first to notice us. Her rehearsed smile wavered briefly before she regained her composure and walked over. "What a surprise, Claire. What about Ethan?" She spoke more softly. "This is a private family gathering, darling. No invitation was sent to you." "I understand," I replied, echoing her low voice while adding a bit of grit. "You were pretty clear about my position. However, Brooke is still my sister, and I stand by her side." My mom's smile grew tense. "Obviously. How responsible of you. Please try not to let your circumstances take up this evening. We are celebrating Brooke tonight." Ethan held my hand as she stepped aside to welcome additional guests. "Are you all right?" I said, "I will be," but my assurance was faltering. The evening went on in agony. My father hardly gave us a glance, preferring to talk about the Hendersons, especially Preston, who had sat by Brooke in spite of her apparent unease. My parents' acquaintances kept mistaking Ethan for waitstaff, kept him out of talks, and served him last at supper. My father's toast was the last straw. He smiled at Brooke as he stood at the head table with the champagne flute up. He declared, "Tonight, we're honoring not just a birthday, but a remarkable young woman who embodies the Whitfield values. Brooke has demonstrated a commitment to professional excellence, family tradition, and building the right relationships for a prosperous future." He looked thoughtfully from Brooke to Preston Hale and back again. "Actually, I'm happy to say that Brooke has been elevated to the position of junior partner at Whitfield Properties, where she will assist in spearheading our innovative new partnership with Henderson Financial Group." There was a burst of applause. I sat dumbfounded. It was more than just a birthday celebration. It was more than just a formal proclamation. It was a planned family business combination that would tie Brooke to Preston via their parents' businesses, making it more and more difficult for her to follow her own dreams. And then all of a sudden, I realized exactly what was going on. Ethan's lack of merit was never the issue. Control was at issue here. Regarding maintaining the Whitfield dynasty according to their wishes. Ethan was tight next to me as awareness set in. My father was deep in conversation with a man I didn't recognize, and I followed his gaze. The man continued to look at us, his face changing from one of incredulity to one of awe. I muttered, "Ethan, who is that man?" "Gregory Vaughn," was his tense response. "Pinnacle Tech CEO." Ethan was up before I could inquire as to why the CEO of one of the biggest tech firms in the nation would be considering us. "We must depart. Right now." As we snuck out, I had a final glimpse of Gregory Vaughn dragging my father away and pointing at us with a decided intensity. Something had changed, although I wasn't sure what it was yet. "Will you explain what that was about to me?" As we drove home, I inquired, observing Ethan's tense jaw through the illumination on the dashboard. His shoulders relaxed a little as he sighed. "Remember that 3-year-old project I've been working on? The one I was unable to discuss much?" Slowly, I said, "The algorithm for predictive analysis in healthcare. The one that always seems to be coming along when I inquire about it." Assuming that it was standard startup confidentiality, I had always maintained his privacy regarding his work. With a rueful smile tugging at his lips, Ethan looked at me. "Claire, it's finished. The testing, the development, everything. For the past month, I have been involved in acquisition negotiations." I blinked as I tried to take in the gravity of what he was saying. "That's incredible. However, what relevance does that have to tonight's events?" "My software is being purchased by Gregory Vaughn's company," he declared. "The agreement expires on Monday morning." Like thunder after lightning, the ramifications started to sink in. "Is it significant?" Ethan chuckled dryly. "Small acquisitions are not made by Pinnacle Tech." My phone started buzzing frantically with notifications before I could tap any more buttons. My father missed 3 calls. My mom gave me 2. Additionally, Brooke texted, "How on earth did your fiancé act? Maxwell and Dad are going crazy." I showed Ethan the message. "Would you mind telling me the rest?" Ethan opened his laptop when we got home and retrieved a press release that was due on Monday morning. Unable to believe it, I read the headline twice and then a third time. BioPredict is purchased by Pinnacle Tech for $180 million. $180 million? I stared at the screen, gasping. Ethan gave a nod. "This is going to change your life," he muttered. "The negotiations, the legal reviews, and the planning are the reasons I've been so preoccupied lately." He gently took my hands. "I wanted to let you know. However, once the deal was finalized, the confidentiality obligations were unchangeable." Like sparks on a fuse, my mind raced, making connections between the dots. "So tonight, Gregory Vaughn recognized you. He was speaking to my father for that reason." Ethan ran his hand through his hair and remarked, "Apparently. I suppose he assumed your father was already aware of my identity." My phone came back to life at that moment. "My dad." After hesitating, I answered and switched it on speaker. "Claire," he said in a tone that was strangely submissive. "Is Ethan with you? I would really like to talk to him about a possible opportunity." I answered calmly, "Dad, it's almost midnight. How could an opportunity be so urgent?" A pause. "According to Gregory Vaughn, Ethan's business has created some amazing medical technology. We would be very interested in talking about possible partnerships as Whitfield Properties expands into the medical office industry." It was breathtakingly audacious. My father was too lazy to acknowledge Ethan's existence just hours ago. He was now rushing to connect after spotting a potential possibility. "We'd love to talk about this more," I said, a strategy already taking shape in my mind. "What about breakfast at 12 a.m. tomorrow? On the Riverside Terrace?" My father accepted without hesitation and said he would set things up right away. Ethan arched one eyebrow at me after I hung up. "The terrace at Riverside? Are you certain?" "Yes," I said, my resolve growing stronger. "They can speak with you about business at the location where our engagement party should have occurred. And they can confront you for who you really are, not for what they thought you were." Ethan grinned, but there was still a glimmer of worry. "Claire, I never intended our relationship to be impacted by my career or financial status. I dress simply and drive an old automobile because of this. I desired to be respected for my thoughts rather than my wealth." I told him, "And I do value you for that. However, money is not the focus of tomorrow. Showing my parents the repercussions of making snap judgments about people based solely on their appearance is the goal. And about taking back our honor, how we want it." My phone rang with a fresh message from my father as we got ready for bed. Brunch was confirmed. Private room on Riverside Terrace. I'm eager to talk with Ethan about this wonderful opportunity. The stage was set for justice in our own way. In the sunshine, the Riverside Terrace appeared more clear and less overpowering. The polished flooring were covered in large rectangles of light as the sun shone through the windows. "Today, you can't hide in the shadows." My parents were the first to arrive, their features arrayed in welcoming expressions and their Sunday best. Brooke arrived as well, her interest seemingly triumphing over her embarrassment. I secretly admired her modest act of disobedience by bringing Mason Reed along. I went in last, followed by Ethan. We made a conscious decision that morning to wear the same basic button-down shirt and jeans he had worn when we first met. I wore modest yet professional attire. No armor. Just the facts. Power plays weren't the point of this. Clarity was the key. And allowing them to finally see who we truly were. Claire, the architect. Not Claire Whitmore Aries. Ethan, it's great to see you again, my father exclaimed, holding out his hand with renewed vigor. Gregory Vaughn has nothing but praise for your work. Very, very much so. Thank you for setting this up, Ethan said courteously, his manner unaltered from all previous encounters with my parents, respectful, but unimpressed by their position. We took a seat at the table. As coffee and mimosas arrived, my father began a clearly prepared speech about exciting synergies and mutual opportunities. My mother nodded in agreement, stroking Ethan's arm every so often to make a point. A week before, she couldn't have bothered to talk to Ethan personally. I put a folder on the table, a copy of the acquisition documents Ethan had showed me with his consent, when my father finally stopped to catch his breath. I gently stated, I think we should be clear about what we're discussing before we go further. I presented the folder to my parents and opened it. Ethan is creating more than just medical technologies. He established BioPredict, which tomorrow Pinnacle Tech will purchase for $180 million. As he scanned the document, my father's face turned pale. My mother's eyes darted from Ethan to the paper, and her smile froze. I think Whitfield Properties actually asked Pinnacle last year about partnering on their medical campus, and they turned them down, I went on. Dad, isn't that correct? The ensuing hush was deafening. For what may have been the first time in his career, my father lost his cool and cleared his throat. He acknowledged, I wasn't aware of the scale of Ethan's involvement. This is definitely amazing. My mom got better faster. You ought to have informed us, Ethan. We had been thinking all this time. Realizing there was no proper way to complete that sentence, she trailed off. What did you think? I asked. That his use of an outdated Honda made him unworthy? Because he doesn't flaunt his connections or wealth. Brooke had fresh eyes as she gazed at Ethan. BioPredict? Hold on. Last year, Mason Reed applied for a job there. They are really picky. Mason Reed gave a sheepish nod. The second interview was the last one I made it through. There are too many competent applicants. I clarified, Ethan hires people based on their skills and character, not their connections or pedigree. A new idea, isn't it? The ramifications were becoming clear. The man they had thrown out. They had attempted to sabotage the engagement. They had called off the celebration. It was all predicated on shallow and incorrect notions about merit. Clearly, we miscalculated the situation, my father stated sternly. Maybe we should start over. Throw a lavish engagement celebration for the two of you, naturally at the riverside. Nothing is spared. I turned to face Ethan. He nodded slightly in agreement. I said, that won't be required. Next Saturday, we will celebrate on the rooftop of Mill Creek Brewery. Easy. Significant. With those who have always been there for us. I got up from my chair and went on. I came here not to apologize. Or to reconsider what is important. I come to help you realize how much your judgment has cost you. Not only a prosperous son-in-law, but a daughter who required you to go beyond your limited perspective of worth. I left the Riverside Terrace, for the second and last time, taking Ethan's hand. I left my parents to reflect on the real price of their flimsy expectations. I didn't have to prove anything to them in the end. Our silent triumph, my love, and my serenity shouted louder than any argument ever could. choosing to leave with your integrity intact might sometimes be the true triumph. Establish boundaries, make an investment in your recovery, and get up without having to yell if you've been betrayed or unfairly judged. When you've been wronged, have you ever acted honorably? I'd love to hear how you used pain to gain strength, so please share your story in the comments section. What self-discoveries did choosing peace teach you?